Namaste and good morning to all of you. Let's do the prayers. Om Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parbrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Bhuvah Swaha, Tatsavitravarinyam, Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi, Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat. Asto Ma Satgamya, Tamso Ma Jyotirgamya, Mrityorma Amritam Gamya. Om Sehna Bhavatu, Sehna Bhunaktu, Saviryam Karvavahi, Tejasvi Navadhitamastu, Ma Vidveshavahi. Om Shanti 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 Om. We are trying to understand Bhaj Govindam in this class, written by Adi Shankaracharya. And we ended our last week's class with verse number 16, where he is telling us, in fact, this verse is spoken by one of his disciples, Astamal, that is the name of the person who created this verse. He said, in front of the fire at the back sun, late at night he sits with his knees held to his chin. He receives alms in his own scooped palm and lives under the shelter of some tree. And yet the news of desires spares him not. Okay. So what he's trying to make a point over here, that sometimes we can renounce everything physically. So this person, or this kind of a picture he's painting in our mind, that person has completely renounced the house also, the relatives also, with the bare minimum he is living. But where do the desires reside in our mind? So we got to get the desires out of our mind also. So we may not keep any possessions with us, but we got to keep on cleaning our mind also from the desires. So that's why he used this word, very strong word, pasha, noose of desires. Okay, pash means a noose. So we got to reflect upon it. What resides in our mind? The worldly desires or a love for God? Okay, so it's a picture, he's painting so that we can reflect in our own mind. So any question, any comment on this before we move into the next verse?
Harshji, I just understood it a little differently. So tell me if I'm wrong. I understood that in this verse, he says, even though, on the outside, he's given up everything and wants to renounce, but his desires still persist.
Yeah.
Right?
That's right. That's what I'm saying. So
okay,
the
okay.
desires are in the mind. So
Yeah.
it's not just an outer renunciation.
Right.
We need to cultivate the inner renunciation.
Right. So that's what I understood it. And
yeah, and that's exactly what he's saying.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying otherwise. Okay.
No. Mental attachment.
Right.
To all these ishnas.
Right.
So there must be elimination of desires from the mind, because outer body is not going to go with us.
Right.
Inner mind is going to accompany us in the future journey.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Sorry about that.
Yeah. So now let's look at the next verse, which is spoken by Shri Subodha. That is the name of the disciple of Adi Shankaracharya. Kurute gaNgaasaagaragamanaM, vrataparipaalanamathavaa daanam, GYAanavihinaH sarvamatena, bhajati muktiM janmashatena. Kurute goes to, kuru means doing something. Over here, because Gangasagar word is next to it, so it really means goes to pilgrimage. gaNgaasaagaragamanaM, where the Ganges or the Ganga meets the ocean. Okay, gaNgaasaagaragamanaM. Vrataparipaalanam, observes the vows. Athva means or. Daanam, distributes gifts away, gives the alms, charities. GYAanavihinaH, devoid of experience of truth. Sarvamatena, according to all schools of thoughts. Sarvamat. Bhajati, gains. Na means not. muktiM, the liberation, the release, freedom. janmashatena, even in 100 lives. Shat means 100. Okay. Bhaj Govindam. Bhaj Govindam. One may in pilgrimage go to where the Ganga meets the ocean, called the Gangasagar, or observe vows, or distribute gifts away in charity. If he is devoid of first-hand experience of truth, jnana, according to all schools of thoughts, he gains no mukti, no release, even in 100 lives. 100 really means countless lives. So all this is, it falls under the tapa. He's not saying that don't do the tapa, but he's bringing our attention towards the goal also, where we need to reach with the help of the tapa. Because whether we go on a pilgrimage or whether we do any other kind of austerity or charity, all of them are wonderful exercises for developing a very healthy attitude of life, in helping us onto the path of definitely sometimes a study, sometimes contemplation, but ultimately there has to be some purity. We have to make sure that we don't confuse ourselves with the means to the end. Means are means. Means are to attain the end. So means are not end in themselves. Sometimes we just are mistaken. We think we have done that many vrats. That's our goal. Or we have given enough money. Or we have gone to all kinds of sacred places. No. Sure, do that and see what kind of a purity comes in the mind. So without the knowledge of the infinite reality, this is what he's talking about over here. GYAanavihinaH sarvamatena. So that means all schools of thoughts. See, in that wonderful land, which we call Bharatvarsha, it was encouraged. All the rishis, they encouraged their disciples also to think about it. So that's why so many schools of thoughts are there. Over here, Shankaracharyaji's disciple is saying that all the mat, they say the same thing. That end is, we got to have this infinite knowledge of this infinite reality. And a tattva jnana, not just only a theoretical knowledge. And liberation will happen only then. And what is this liberation? Liberation from our sense of finitude. We need to do. We need to merge with the infinite. We got to see what the infinite is. Right now we are deluded with this finite, this Maya. So Upanishads also, they constantly say that to us. There's a question by Urmila that explains the difference between jnana Let me read the question to you completely. It says, please explain the difference between Gyan and experience and how to see the infinite. How to see the infinite. This seeing of infinite comes with the help of meditation. That is seeing the infinite. So it is not seeing like we see something with these outer eyes. So that's why it's called experience also. So it just becomes our knowledge. So this whole thing is just, it becomes your reality. Because knowledge is there. If somebody has the knowledge that sugar is sweet, how does that become a knowledge for that person that sugar is sweet? By really eating it, experiencing it. So now the knowledge which we are learning with the help of the scriptures from these great rishis, the acharyas, that God is everywhere. So that is the knowledge. But this knowledge, in order to become our experience, we need to go through this sadhana. Sadhana, which is called meditation. Take some time out to detach from the finite. Infinite doesn't need to come from somewhere else. Infinite is everywhere, including in us too. So detaching from the finite, only then we can experience this infinite. So sadhana is needed for that. Okay, but initially we need to study also. So that's why this Swadhyaya is important. But taking some time out every day, and gradually you will see that you'll experience without any effort. There's a more effort needed to experience the outer world. There's no effort needed to know yourself. You have to just detach. The Upanishads say, Jnanam eva tu kevalyam. That means the experience, we will experience the infinite oneness of life with the help of the Gyan. So sometimes Gyan word is used for the knowledge, and sometimes Gyan word is used for this experience of the reality also. Okay, so in this particular Upanishadic declaration, Jnanam eva means the Gyan is needed. Two means what? Kavalyam, for liberation. Kavalya means liberation. So Gyan is needed. See, it's almost like a yoga. Yoga word is used for the path, a yogic path we are walking on. And ultimate goal is also called yoga when there is a merger. The same way, this Gyan is the knowledge which we are walking on, which we are trying to understand. And ultimately, when there is a oneness, that's also a Gyan, the reality. So it all depends on how we are using this term. Niru has a question. Niru? No? Okay. So walking the path of the ancient teachers, there's another question. I would like the questions to be towards the end. Let's keep them towards the end. Otherwise, the flow of this scripture goes away. But I will definitely give enough time to answer the questions. Okay. So Jyoti, you can mark it down, these questions. Okay. So unanimously, the teachers are saying, or they are coming to the conclusion that liberation from the sorrows of life cannot be gained without the actual first-hand experience of the one infinitude. Okay, so that's what sarvamatena. Exercise you can keep on doing, he says, for hundreds of lives, but ultimately you got to experience it. Let's look at the phrase gangasagar. It means there are a couple of meanings behind it. Ganga meets the Bay of Bengal. That's called a Gangasagar. A lot of people call that Gangasagar. Or Ganga flows into the Rameshwar also. That's also a Gangasagar. It's like a setu over there. Most important pilgrimages in the Kashi also, Rameshwar also. So it could be any place, Ganga Sagar. But for us, we got to understand that when we study scriptures like this, we should have faith. Without faith, it's not going to make a difference. Dedication, devotion, and sincerity. Okay, so when we have these kind of qualities in us, then it becomes a Ganga. Educating our intellect to hold higher ideals, training our mind to obey our will, sharpening our will itself, which is called a Sankalp Shakti, and training it so that it can easily be wielded by ourselves. And for all that, we need to make a firm vow. So when we go to a pilgrimage, or we make a vow, or we give a charity, they should all help us to prepare our mind. Okay, prepare our mind so that we have a spirit of dedication unto the God. And our entire mind, when we do the prayers also, or the meditation, or the studies also, the entire mind should turn towards the Lord. That kind of a religious vow we need to make in order to elevate ourselves. Then it won't take a Shat Janam. It can happen instantly also. It's almost like if somebody is sleeping and going through a nightmare, we need to wake that person up. He can get out of the nightmare only if he's awakened. The same thing these rishis are doing to us. They are awakening us. We are just too attached, or we think that this is what it is, the finite life. They are taking us towards the infinite. The other example, there is a snake in the rope. If somebody is delusional that this is a snake, what do? You turn the light on. You say, no, look at it. It's not a snake. It's just a rope. So foolishness can be removed instantly. And we are fooling ourselves. For countless lives we have been fooling, and he says that you can keep on fooling yourself for hundreds of more lives. You need to come to the senses. Waking up alone is the remedy for all the sorrows of the dream. In the same way, this delusional life also we need to wake up from. So this is written by and spoken by Shri Subodha. Let me read it again. One may in pilgrimage go to where the Ganges meets the ocean, called the Gangasagar, or observe vows or distribute gifts away in charity. If he is devoid of a first-hand experience of truth, according to all schools of thought, he gains no release even in 100 lives. Okay? So pretty straightforward actually, but he's telling us that these things are good to do, but these are only means, not the end. We got to make sure that we are moving towards the end also, the goal also, while doing this. Sur Mandir Taru Mool Nivasaha Shayya Bhutalam Ajinam Vasaha Sarv Parigraha Bhogaha Tyagaha kasya sukham na karoti viraga, bhaj Govindam, bhaj Govindam. Okay, this is spoken by Sureshwaracharya. Shayya, no, Sur Mandir Tarumul Nivasa. Sur Mandir, that is a temple. Tarumul, under some trees. Nivasa means staying, taking a shelter. So sheltering in temples under some trees. Shayya, bed. Bhutalam, on the naked ground. Ajinam, wearing like a deer skin, like a discarded everything, just wearing whatever was given. VahniH, cloth. Sarvamatena, of the possession. Bhogaha, the thirst to enjoy. Tyagaha, renouncing. Kasya, whose. Sukham, happiness. Na means not. Kuroti, brings. Virag, dispassion. Sheltering in temples, under some trees, sleeping on the naked grounds, wearing a deer skin, and thus renouncing all idea of possession and thirst to enjoy. To whom will not dispassion bring happiness? So there's a question being asked by him. Kasya sukham na karoti viraga. Earlier we saw in verse 16 by Shri Hastamalji, he almost painted a picture of a hypocrite. But over here, this Acharya is talking about a real person, real renunciation, who has truly relinquished all his inner thirsts, not just only the outer, but the inner thirst also, for enjoying the world outside. And that's what he's painting a picture of that kind of a person. True dispassion brings real happiness to all. That's what he's saying. So the real happiness is not dependent upon only the outer possessions, but it's the inner dispassion. It's in Yoga Sutras we learned the aparvairagya and the parvairagya. The higher vairagya, higher. He says that a person who won't be happy. Otherwise, we will always stay unhappy. Because in the world outside, we can see the millionaires, the billionaires. Somebody is worried about money or the growth of the money. Somebody is worried about the power. Somebody is anxious about something else. The relationships, always some kind of a worry. But the real renunciate is the one who is truly happy. That's what he's trying to bring it to our mind. So only one who has the courage to declare and truly feel that he is happy, who has relinquished all his passions and hungers from within. That is the key difference between this and the previous verses. He alone is really rich, who has no more any use for the finite joys of this delusory world. Such an individual may not have any shelter of his own. He is living under the shade of a tree in the courtyard of a temple. He may be sleeping on the bare ground, and he has nothing but a deer skin to cover his body. So renouncing entire idea of possession and relinquishing all. But he is feeling fulfilled, lives happily. How? Self-sufficient unto himself. He is getting the happiness from the eternal source of happiness. We are looking for happiness from the inert objects, inert places. He has found the fountain of the eternal bliss. So he is independent of the world outside. He has found inexhaustible well of joy. So he is truly rich. Because when renunciation is only external, when there is still a sense of attachment within, we cannot discover a true joy of living. So that's why he's painting the outer behavior and the inner attributes also at the same time in this true relinquisher, viraktaha. So he has reached the stage of desirelessness as a result of his deliberate sadhana. We cannot just keep on wishing about it. In order to reach here, the sadhana needs to be done. Only then we'll feel it. And that's exactly what Lord Krishna said in Bhagavad Gita. If you remember, we just recently did this verse in our Sunday classes. Chapter 2, verse number 55. Prajahati yada kaman sarvan parth manogatan. Atmanyev atmanah tushta sthit pragyaha tadu uchyate. So finding the real happiness, the joy within. He says when a person completely casts away, O Parth, all the desires of the mind, not just some of them, all the desires of the mind, and satisfied in the self, by the self, then he is considered to be a man of steady wisdom. That's a yogi. So the inner riches must be the basis of our sadhana. Otherwise, this outer renunciation, sure, it's painful. But if you don't have an inner renunciation, then it's useless also. You're going to the pain also and no benefit either. So healthy outlook on life must be nurtured by an enduring inner yoga. Okay. So this is what we need to cultivate, that my mind, what does it keep doing? Am I just fooling myself with all the studies I'm doing, with all the sadhana I'm doing? Because without insight into the reality, the outer person can never dare to give up the enchanting things of the outer world of beauty. But to think it deeply. Because we don't want to become a hypocrite. And he is sleeping. He says he is sleeping on the bare ground comfortably. So that comfort is not because of the softness of the ground, because of the purity of his heart. And purity of the heart is because there's no worldly desire in it. No mental worry. In his positive life of peaceful love to all, he sleeps comfortably on the rough ground. And sometimes on the very soft bed, the people cannot sleep without taking the sleeping pills. And that's why at the end he says, who will then not be happy? All others are unhappy. The people with lot of possessions, their mind has the cancer of desire. Their intellect is full of conceit. And that's why there's no happiness. There's a Kavalya Upanishad which says by renunciation alone can immortality be achieved. Tyagenem ekehe amritam amritvam manashuhu. So by renunciation alone. So he's talking about the real renunciation, the para-vairagya. Only then there is a immortality, the amritvam. And again, there's another Upanishad which says, Vairagyam ev abhyayam. See, abhya, bhaya means fear, abhya means fearlessness. And we are not a devotee in the real sense unless we have this quality of abhya, fearlessness. So this Upanishad says renunciation alone is the seat of fearlessness. We think that by having more, we will become fearless. These rishis are telling us the other way around. More we have, the more afraid we are. Person living in a simple house is not worried about somebody will rob him. Even most of us are come from that kind of a culture. At that time, there were no fear. Kids could play outside. Homes didn't even have the locks. There was a true happiness. Now the more we have, the more gates we have, and the more locks we have, and the more security systems we have. Fear on top of the fear. So these rishis, they wrote a long time ago, Vairagyamev abhyam. So if you want to have a fearlessness, because you got to have a fearless personality in order to love God, renounce. And mentally renounce. Not just only physical renounce. Number 19, by Nityananda. Yogrataha va bhograta va sangrataha va sangvihinaH yasya brahmani ramate chitam nandati nandya eva bhaj Govindam. Yograta, one who revels in yoga. See, rati means when you are totally reveling in it, you're enjoying it. Rati. See, virati is opposite of rati. So yogrataha, one who revels in yoga. Va means or. Bhograta, one who revels in bhog. Va means or. Sangrata, one who seeks enjoyment in company. Sangrata. Again, va means or. Sangvihina, one who revels in solitude. That means a person who is away from the crowds. Sangvihina. Yasya, for whom? Brahmani, in Brahma. Ramate, revels. Chittam, the mind. Nandati, enjoys. Again, Nandati enjoys. Nandiev, only he enjoys. See, ev means only. Let him revel in yoga, or let him revel in bhoga. Let one seek enjoyment in company, or let him revel in solitude away from the crowd. He whose mind revels in Brahma, he enjoys. Verily, he alone enjoys. So this verse is glorifying the state of realization of a Brahma. This is a This is the goal. No matter where we are, we could be with the company or we could be alone. We could be doing yoga or we could be as a bhogi. Others think that we are bhogi, but if our mind is reveling in Brahma, and that is the true meaning of brahmacharya, roaming in Brahma. And this is what he's talking about over here. So it's immaterial whether he's in crowd or living all alone in bhog or in yoga. In whatever condition he may live, he has found the real joy. Mind is fully restful. Restful mind is the temple of joy. But if a mind is not restful, what is it doing? Why the mind is restless? Because it's gurgling with its desires, passions, attachments. That is a restless mind. That is not a joyful mind. That's why Lord Krishna in chapter 2, part of the verse number 66, he said, Ashantasya kuta sukham. Okay, Ashantasya, restlessness. The mind is restless. We cannot even imagine the real sukha. So the one who has realized the highest himself has a restful mind, can feel the infinite bliss, the true joy. This joy is true because it's not dependent upon the things or beings, nor upon the arrangements of the things around the individual. So it's just like it is joy, causeless joy. It's not because of this the joy has come. So to a man of realization, after his experience of the infinite, there is nothing more real to him than the Brahma. Other things are there. They can be there or they can be taken away. But he is joyful. So that's why he's saying, let him remain practicing this or that yoga or a bhog, or with the company or without the company. He's fully connected with the source of joy. He is no more seeking for the outer world any joy for any sense gratification. That's why when we studied Avadhut Gita, or before that we studied Ashtavakra Gita, those were the conditions of those Dattatreya's and King Janaka also. So many verses we just learned this, that they are beyond vidhi and nishedh. Total freedom to do anything, because whatever they are doing, that becomes a norm. And they are doing something which is good, sure. But even if sometimes people don't understand, they are not the doers. So that's why I said they are beyond the vidhi and the nishedh. The special powers we see in the world also. Any position has a special power. It could be a Supreme Court judge, or it could be a president of a country. They have been given the powers to decide. So the same thing happens to these kind of yogis also. They are beyond the vidhi and nishedh. It's almost like a surgeon can use the knife on another person. Even if the person dies, still it's not a crime. Power. And normally what happens, a man of perfection will not and cannot act selfishly. Because it's not in their nature. They have risen above it, just like a good surgeon or a good politician, good judge, good president. They will not act selfishly. Because they are not trying to fulfill any personal desires from all that. Objects of the world outside, they are free from. So this is the word vidhi and nishedh, they are above that. So the very nature of this person, man of perfection, is incapable of acting against the moral harmony and the ethical goodness in society. Brahmavid Brahma eva bhavati. They are constantly reveling in the presence of Brahma. Or Mundak Upanishad says, Atam Krida, Atam Rati Kriyavan. They are just enjoying the play of the self. And such a man of perfection alone enjoys in this world. Even among the sorrows and the tribulations, there could be for other people, it's a sorrowful situation, but this person is Atamrati. It's like a spotless joy of the perfection. Okay, so this is Nityananda. He is the one who recited this verse. He says, Yograta va bhaugrata va sangrata va sangvihina. Yasya brahmani ramte chitam nandati nandati nandye. So that means the mind is totally absorbed into the Brahma. Outer conditions don't even affect him at all. Let's do just, I'll just read the next one, and then I know there are some questions over here. We'll go through those also. But before the questions, I would ask Poonam to recite these verses which we just covered. And the next one is by Shri Anand Giri. That is the name of the Acharya. Okay. Bhagavad Gita Kinchit Adhita Ganga Jalav Kanikaha Pitaha Sakrit Api Yena Murarihi Samarchaha Kriyate Tasye Yamena Na Charchaha Bhaj Govindam Bhaj Govindam. Bhagavad Gita, we are all familiar with this. Bhagavad Gita, our great scripture. Kinchit, ever or a little. Adhita, has studied. Ganga Jal Lav Kanika, a drop of Ganga water. Pitaha, has sipped. Sakrit Api, at least once. Yen, by whom? Murari Samarchaha, worship of the Lord Murari. Murari is who? Lord Krishna. Why? Because there was an enemy, Rakshasa. Okay, so Murari. Ari means it's like enemy of Mur, Rakshas. Kriyate is done. Tasya, to him. Yamen, with Yam, the Lord of death. No means never. Charcha means discussion. To one who has studied the Bhagavad Gita even a little, Kinchit Adhita, who has sipped at least a drop of Ganges water, who has worshipped at least once Lord Murari, to him there is no discussion with Yam, the Lord of death. So that means no coming and going, has attained the goal. So these are the three divine exercises for spiritual unfoldment, which he is indicating here for us. The study of the Gita, drinking Ganga, or taking a dip in Ganga, and worship of Murari. And we'll talk about more next week in a detail about this. Okay, what does it really mean? Sipping Ganga water, what does it truly mean? Is it physical sipping, or is it something more than that? So we'll stop it over here. And first, Poonam will recite these, sing these verses for us. But before that, let me do the Shanti part. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadai Purnameva Vishishyate. Om Shanti.
Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
So, Poonam, please.
Namaste, Hersh.
Namaste.
I'm gonna do verse 17.
Sure.
Or Bhaj Govindam, Bhaj Govindam, Bhaj Govindam, Bhaj Govindam, Govindam Bhaj Mudhamate, kurute gangasaagaragamanaM, kurute gangasaagaragamanaM, vrataparipaalanamathavaa daanam, vrataparipaalanamathavaa daanam, ज्ञानवहीना sarvamatena, ज्ञानवहीना sarvamatena, भजति न muktiM janmashatena, भजति न muktiM janmashatena, भज गोविंदम, भज गोविंदम, भज गोविंदम, भज गोविंदम, गोविंदम भज मूढ़मते, सुर मंदिर तरु मूल निवासा, सुर मंदिर तरु मूल निवासः, शय्या भूतलम अजिनं वासः, शय्या भूतलम अजिनं वासः, सर्व परिग्रह भोग त्यागः, सर्व परिग्रह भोग त्यागः, कस्य सुखं न करोति विरागः, कस्य सुखं न करोति विरागः, भज गोविंदम, भज गोविंदम, भज गोविंदम, भज गोविंदम, गोविंदम भज मूढ़मते, योगरतो वा भोगरतो वा, योगरतो वा भोगरतो वा, संगरतो वा संगवहीना, संगरतो वा संगवहीना, यस्य ब्राह्मणी रमते चेतम्, यस्य ब्राह्मणी रमते चेतम्, नन्धति नन्धति नन्धते वा, नन्धति नन्धति नन्धते वा, भज गोविंदम, भज गोविंदम, भज गोविंदम, भज गोविंदम, गोविंदम भज मूढ़मते। Thank you.